They say time erases everything, but it makes mistakes. Sometimes nature seems like it never signed the contract to disappear. What we have written into textbooks as extinct suddenly shows up on camera, on a tourist's video, on a forest trap, in murky water, under the beam of a flashlight. Today, extinct animals that suddenly turned out to be very much alive. Mountains and jungles of the Philippines are changing, roads and cities are growing, and wild animals are disappearing quietly and unnoticed. But sometimes in the beam of a night camera he appears, the Philippine spotted deer. Dark fur, white spots on his sides, huge eyes. He was considered doomed, but small populations are still hiding in the thickets. Every such video is a sign that conservation efforts really do work, if you do not just let everything run its course. Imagine, you dive into the depths, and coming toward you is a fish that supposedly vanished millions of years ago. This is the coelacanth, a real, living fossil. It was considered extinct since the time of the dinosaurs, until fishermen in the 20th century accidentally pulled it out of their nets. It has fins that look like the beginnings of limbs, and it can live for more than 100 years. Looking at such footage, you realize, in some places in the depths, time has simply stopped. Sometimes the camera catches not cute little animals at all. On one recording from a forest trail, at first only a vague silhouette is visible in the center of the frame. Then, in the darkness, a figure emerges that is hard to call an animal. Long limbs, unnatural movements. Some people are convinced it is an edit, but those who were there that night are sure of the opposite, and definitely are not eager to return to that forest. Imagine you are relaxing on a beach. Sun, waves, people with cocktails, and suddenly a wave brings a monster with a huge jaw right to the shore. This is a lancetfish, a deep-sea predator with a narrow body and a toothy snout. Normally it lives at great depths, and now it is lying at your feet like an alien from a nightmare. In such moments, you understand how little we know about what is hiding just a few tens of meters below the surface. Sometimes even experienced divers are left speechless. The megamouth shark is a deep-sea giant with a huge opening mouth that it uses to filter plankton. In the entire history of observation, only a few hundred encounters have been officially recorded. When, in rare shots, this shadow with a gigantic mouth appears next to people, it becomes clear we are only guests here, peeking into someone else's dark country. By all indications, it is a rare species from remote regions of China. How it ended up in a decorative golf course pond is a mystery. Was it accidentally moved with water? Did some collector release it? Many people think chameleons are all the same. They change color, hide on branches, and that is it. But one species breaks out of this pattern. In Madagascar, Furcifer voltskowi was found again. It had not been seen for more than 100 years. Females have bright purple and red shades, as if they were painted by hand. Short clips with this species spread around the world and reminded everyone. Island forests still hide many stories with a happy ending, if we do not burn them to the ground. Twilight, the salt marshes of Florida, and a small dark bird on a reed stalk. This is the dusky seaside sparrow, an extinct species that fought for survival for a long time, but could not hold on. A short clip with this bird is now perceived like a farewell photo from a family album. There are no more such voices in nature. In the Indonesian jungles, a group of researchers is not looking for tigers or monkeys, but a bee. Wallace's bee is a gigantic species, with huge jaws that people had decided was gone. After more than a century, it was found again. It lives in termite mounds and looks as if it has been enlarged several times compared to an ordinary bee. In the video, you can see how it carefully crawls out of the nest. And in that moment, you understand how thin the line is between extinct and just very well hidden. In a night recording from New Zealand, a heavy green parrot that cannot fly walks up to the camera. This is the kakapo, one of the rarest parrots on the planet. It looks more like a fluffy owl than a bird. Once there were many of them, but humans and introduced predators almost wiped them out. Now, every such parrot is registered individually, and footage with them goes viral, not only because of their funny behavior, but also because these are literally the last representatives of their kind.
So, evolution hasn't entirely...
In films, piranhas are shown as a frenzied swarm of killers. In real footage, everything is much calmer, until a certain point. When food is scarce, these fish gather in a dense cloud and tear off chunks of flesh with razor-sharp teeth. In another mode, they simply clean up carrion. Watching such a boiling kettle of silver bodies is like looking into a working meat grinder. Personally, I would not risk getting into that water without a very good reason. The Carolina parakeet was a bright green and yellow bird that once flew in flocks over the eastern United States. In old photographs and film, it seems ordinary until you realize, today, you will never see it in the wild. Hunting and deforestation did their job. These frames are a sad reminder that brightness and beauty do not save from extinction if nearby there is a human with a gun and an axe. Another parrot, a nocturnal, secretive inhabitant of the Australian deserts, was for many decades considered a legend. Only in the 2010 years did the scientist Steve Murphy, armed with cameras and sound recordings, prove that the species is alive, although it remains incredibly rare. Footage with it is one of those rare moments when science literally pulls a species out of oblivion and returns its right to exist. Not clear, blurry, but obviously not a dog and not a human. This recording from England many called the monster of Wessex Way, and still argue camera glitch or something else? In any case, this strange silhouette became yet another brick in the wall of urban legends that grow around any nighttime road. A deep-sea vehicle slowly crawls along the bottom, lighting everything around with a dim light until the beam snatches an unusual creature from the darkness. This is a deep-sea predator that camouflages itself and moves in appendage, imitating prey. A small fish swims by, stops, and in a second, all the roles change. Even if in this particular recording the predator misses, the scene itself shows how cunning and brutal hunting can be where the sun never shines. In Indonesia, a group of researchers at night hears quiet rustling in the bushes and catches strange eyes flickering in the beam of a flashlight. This is a pygmy tarsier, a miniature primate with huge eyes, sharp little claws, and a nocturnal lifestyle. It had not been seen alive for decades, and scientists had almost resigned themselves to its disappearance. Now, every new clip with it is a small sensation for the scientific world, proof that fragility and tiny size are not always a death sentence. On one of the cruises off Baja, participants walk out onto the beach and notice something silver, long, and almost unreal lying on the sand. Then, a second one. In front of them are two of the rarest deep-sea creatures, thrown ashore by a storm. People run with cameras, someone whispers about a bad omen, but curiosity is stronger than superstition. Some film, some carefully touch the scales, and some just stand aside and realize. Such encounters are exactly the kind of moment when you literally see the face of the deep ocean. During a trip through remote bodies of water, one of the researchers notices in the clear water a small but unusually colored fish. By description, it is very similar to a rare species that had previously been recorded only in certain regions of Asia. How it ended up here, no one knows for sure. Maybe it was brought in with a shipment of ornamental fish. Maybe it has been hiding in local rivers for a long time and nobody paid attention. But from that moment on, any footage with that pattern on its sides becomes a topic of discussion in scientific circles. A man walks through a night forest with a flashlight and a phone. Branches catch on his clothes, and all around, there are only rustles. Suddenly, the beam of light catches a figure in the distance. Tall, massive, clearly uncomfortable moving, but the steps are heavy and confident. A few seconds, and everything disappears into the darkness. Many call such footage proof of the existence of a Yeti or Bigfoot. Others see only the play of light and imagination. Fishermen and divers sometimes witness a beauty that is hard to describe. The blanket octopus is a rare deep-sea species in which the females have a thin membrane stretched between the arms, like a billowing cloak. In video, it seems to fly through the water, spreading this silky fabric. The tiny males next to her look like dwarfs, but precisely that unusual difference in size made this species a legend among biologists. A vehicle filming the abyssal plain suddenly records a strange, semi-transparent creature. It curls and stretches like a living parachute. Scientists carefully watch it, recording every movement. Even without knowing the exact species, one thing is clear. This is one of those organisms whose existence we would not even have suspected a couple of decades ago. In one video, a researcher holds in his hands an earthworm that refuses to end. This is a giant earthworm. It crawls slowly, but its size boggles the mind. In everyday life, such creatures hide deep in the soil, and people almost never see them. A short sped-up fragment shows how it moves, and it becomes a little unsettling to think what sizes the ordinary invisible inhabitants of our planet can reach. For a long time, people thought that the Somali sengi, or elephant shrew, had vanished without a trace. But modern expeditions suddenly began to get footage of a small animal on thin legs with a long, stretched-out snout. It darts among rocks and bushes as if it were a little toy, and at the same time, it is connected to very ancient branches of mammal evolution. Its return became yet another example showing that the desert and semi-desert regions of Africa still keep their secrets. In night footage from the North American prairies, a small spotted white creature with black legs and a mask on its face appears. This is the black-footed ferret, a predator that had also already been written down as extinct. Only thanks to breeding programs and releases back into the wild did it begin to appear in the grasslands again. In the moments when it peeks out of a burrow straight into the lens, you feel that sometimes humans can not only destroy, but also bring species home again. Another controversial recording shows in the sky something that looks like a winged reptilian creature. In the frame, you can see long wings and a tail, exactly how pterosaurs are reconstructed in drawings. Skeptics talk about a large bird and camera tricks. Believers in wonders insist that not all ancient species died out. One thing can be said for sure. The more such clips appear online, the more people want to believe that the world around us is still full of mysteries. In the depths of the ocean, a creature like a giant woodlouse slowly crawls along the bottom. This is a deep-sea isopod, a crustacean that feeds on carrion and the remains of large prey. Its thick shell and strange appearance make it a true antagonist in any nature documentary about the sea. Watching it move unhurriedly across the seafloor is both mesmerizing and slightly creepy. It looks far too alien. A father is filming children playing in the yard when one of them suddenly notices a large, strange insect. At first, it seems to be just a big beetle or mantis, but after a few seconds, something happens in the frame that makes everyone uneasy. Such home recordings make you think, how well do we really know the creatures living literally at our feet? Today, when every other person has a drone, more and more strange footage appears online. Sometimes the drone's camera suddenly records a tall figure between the trees below, after which the device begins to behave oddly. The signal drops out, the battery drains quickly. Coincidence, or is someone really not happy about uninvited guests over their territory? The question remains open. But one thing is clear. The more we film the world, the more uncomfortable questions it asks us. A family is driving through a Canadian park, filming the beautiful forest from the car window. When they watch the video back at home, they notice in the distance a figure crossing a clearing. The silhouette is large, its movement unusual, and each viewer decides for themselves what it is: a bear, a person in a suit, or that same legendary creature that people have been searching for decades. One tourist walks calmly along the trail until a thick, heavy body lies across the path right in front of him. The African rock python is one of the largest snakes in the world, capable of taking down an antelope. Seeing it this close is a dubious pleasure. Watching this footage safely on a screen is nothing like walking that path in real life. In Laos, at a market, a scientist suddenly notices the carcass of an animal that suspiciously resembles a long-extinct family. Later, living animals are found. The Laotian rock rat. It moves like a shrew, has a tail like a squirrel, and its lineage goes back millions of years. A group of ornithologists hears a strange mating call they do not recognize and carefully moves closer. On a branch, they find a bird that many considered extinct. A few seconds of recording, and it flies off into the thickets, never to be seen again. Sometimes the entire history of a species in the 21st century is literally a single recording and a few lines in a scientific paper. In pitch-black depths, a strange fish stands on the bottom, resting on long fin rays like on a tripod. This is the tripod fish. It barely moves, relying on its contact with the water to catch prey. It looks as if someone assembled it from spare parts of different species, a perfect reminder of how bold nature's imagination can be. The recording by Paul Freeman from 1994 is still analyzed frame by frame. In it, you see a massive figure walking through the forest, in which some see a person in a suit and others an unknown creature. People discuss everything: gait, muscle movements, turn of the head. Decades have passed, but there is still no definitive conclusion. And perhaps that is exactly why this clip still attracts so much attention. Once, in the eastern United States, spring came with a very special noise. Males of a rare grouse came out to elect, puffed up their collars, and performed courtship dances. This species was called the heath hen, a close relative of the prairie grouse. First, it was mercilessly hunted, then finished off by deforestation and fires. In old footage, you can see a lone bird still performing its ritual dance, not knowing that there are no partners left. It is a quiet tragedy that needs no commentary. A couple is driving along a forest road, calmly discussing their picnic, when the headlights snatch a strange silhouette out of the darkness. They brake, reverse, and in the beam of light appears a figure that many would consider yet another candidate for the title of Bigfoot. The recording is short, the angles are blurry, but the emotions of the people behind the camera are absolutely real. And that is what makes such clips especially frightening.
Oh, look, right there, stop, back up.
In a short video, a tiny bright orange toad crawls along a wet trail in the mist. This is the golden toad from Costa Rica, a species that disappeared so quickly that not all biologists managed to see it alive. Climate change, disease, destruction of forests, together they wiped it out within a few short years. A person sits on a hill, enjoying the landscape, when in the distance over the slope, a strange figure appears. It moves as if it is flying, but its wings or neck look too unusual for an ordinary bird. Some swear it is a legendary monster, others talk about a bird filmed at a strange angle. However you decide for yourself, such footage fuels interest in stories about Loch Ness monsters and ancient reptiles that somehow survived their time. A submarine moves over the ocean floor, and suddenly in the spotlight appears something like a long, glowing garland. This is a siphonophore, a colonial organism made up of many tiny creatures that work as a single whole. It can reach enormous length and looks like a living space object. The submarine pilots do not hide their awe. Such encounters really happen once in a lifetime, if you are lucky. In the thickets of New Caledonia, a research team notices on a branch a small gecko with an unusual crest on its back. For a long time, people talked about the crested gecko in the past tense. It was a species until it was rediscovered. Now it is popular in terrariums, but in the wild, it remains rare and vulnerable. The story of the Carolina parakeet is almost a textbook on how you must not treat nature. A bright, noisy bird flew in huge flocks across the eastern United States, pecked fruit, landed on farms, and very quickly became an enemy of agriculture. It was shot, poisoned, and at the same time the forests were cut down. In archival photos, you see a friendly bird that is not afraid of humans at all, and exactly that trustfulness turned out to be fatal. In some cases, scientists do not even need footage, only sound. That is how mysterious night birds have been rediscovered by their calls. Long hours of listening to recordings, strange cries amid wind and rustling, and then, among the noise, a recognizable pattern appears. Only later can it be matched with rare images. But it is the sound that first says, "We are still alive." Another story is about a nocturnal parrot that for decades existed only in legends and old notes. Australian deserts are vast. A small bird that flies at night and hides in bushes during the day can easily avoid human eyes for years. And when modern cameras finally managed to catch its silhouette, many scientists felt pure delight. This was not just a species, but a whole chapter of ornithological history returning from oblivion. An ordinary walk along a path in the mountains, until you notice by the rocks something that clearly does not look like a harmless lizard. In front of the people is the La Palma giant lizard, a huge reptile from the Canary Islands. Scientists were sure it had disappeared, like many island species, but sometimes in the cliffs, this alive yesterday relic appears, and the whole theory falls apart. Every such rare video is like a letter from the past. The species is still alive, but not for long, if people ignore it again. A biologist dives off the coast of Madagascar and suddenly realizes the whale next to him is not a usual one. Omura's whale is one of the most mysterious baleen whales on the planet. It was only recognized as a separate species in the early 2000s. It is small, fast, and almost always keeps away from ships. Filming it up close is like winning a scientific lottery. But even in such footage, you feel, next to it is a creature for which we are just a brief flash in the history of the ocean. Scientists in Bolivia walk through humid tropical thickets, expecting at most to see monkeys and birds. And then, in front of them is the Chacoan peccary. Once it had already been officially buried as an extinct species. but the animal had simply retreated far from humans, into the remote regions of the Gran Chaco. When such a rare pig-like body suddenly appears in the frame, biologists rejoice like children. It means not everything is lost yet. In the cloud forests of Ecuador lives a lizard that looks as if comic book artists invented it. This is the Pinocchio anole, a small lizard with a long, pointed outgrowth on its snout. People talked about it in the past tense, gone, extinct, until one day, scientists found it again high in the tree canopy. Now, new clips appear from time to time. A living Pinocchio clings to a branch with its toes and looks intently into the camera, as if asking how long you're going to leave it in peace. Divers go down to the bottom just to see what lives there, and suddenly notice a strange silhouette, as if someone were carrying a coconut along the sand. This is the coconut octopus. It hides in found shells and coconut halves, drags them along like a portable shield and house at the same time. In the video, you can see how it carefully peeks out, as if assessing the people. Are they dangerous or just curious? Such encounters once again remind us that the ocean is not just water around us, but a world that lives by its own cunning rules. An owner raises his camera and notices something that would have been better to avoid. Somewhere ahead, behind the trees, a large figure is moving. The dog refuses to go any farther, and you can hear the man's voice change behind the scenes. The video cuts off, and we never find out how it ended. In the rivers of Queensland swims a creature that looks like a mix between a fish and an ancient amphibian. The Australian lungfish can breathe with both gills and a real lung. The species has hardly changed for millions of years, as if nature made a prototype and decided not to touch it again. In the footage, it slowly moves among aquatic plants, unhurried, as if it has nowhere to go at all. Watching it, you understand how long ago the history of life on Earth began. Off the coast of Asia, divers freeze in place. Next to them glides a long silver body, like in legends about sea serpents. This is the oarfish, the very species associated with folk predictions of earthquakes and disasters. In legends, its appearance is considered a bad omen. Believing in omens or not is a personal choice. But one thing is clear: seeing such a fish alive is an experience most people will never have. Once, in China's Yangtze River, there lived its own dolphin, the baiji. Snow-white, almost fairy tale-like. Pollution, ships, nets. And after years of a scientific quiet war, the species was declared functionally extinct. In new recordings, strange silhouettes sometimes flicker in the water, and many still hope that somewhere in the murky depths, a pair of living animals remains. Divers off the coast of Japan are admiring the underwater landscape, until out of the depths emerges a real giant with long tentacles. The giant squid is the creature around which legends of krakens and sea monsters have been woven for centuries. It does not actually attack ships, but its beak and tentacles can inflict serious wounds. When such a creature ends up close in the lens, it becomes clear that many sea stories had a very real foundation. Nummer 9. Deep-sea submarines often encounter sharks. For them, the submarine is just another object in the water column. For people, it is serious stress. In the darkness, a huge shadow suddenly appears. There's a bump against the hull, slow circling around. Sometimes these are harmless deep-sea species like sleeper sharks, sometimes more active predators. Such recordings remind us, even the seemingly impregnable steel hull of a submarine is only a thin shell between a person and a world in which he is clearly not the master. The yellow-spotted bellfrog, which textbooks were already describing in the past tense, suddenly again ends up in the hands of researchers in Australia. It had been written off as extinct back in the late 20th century. Disease and habitat change did their work. But in 2009, people began to find small living populations. Short but vivid clips with this frog are living proof that nature sometimes gives a second chance. The only question is whether we know how to use it. In old black and white footage, a huge lion with a dark, thick mane that almost reaches his belly paces inside a cage. This is the Barbary lion, which once lived in the mountains of North Africa. There are no more of them in the wild, and in captivity, only descendants with mixed blood remain. Watching these recordings is like peeking into the past, when empires replaced one another, and this predator was a living symbol of strength on coats of arms and flags. Divers off the coast of Papua New Guinea film the bottom and suddenly notice a large worm-like creature lying motionless on the sand. It is in no hurry to move, as if hoping to be mistaken for part of the ground. Researchers suggest that it is one of the mysterious ribbon worms, nereids or nemertines, that people almost never see alive. No flashes, no effects, just a silent mirror of the depths, where every centimeter hides something unknown. On old film, in an enclosure, walks an animal that looks like a cross between a dog and a kangaroo, with strange stripes on its back. This is the Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine. The last one was officially recorded in the 1930s, but blurry footage and stories from people who are sure the species still lives in remote areas are still appearing. In a zoo, a woman is filming enclosures and suddenly freezes. What she hears is not barking, but a strange melodic trill. This is the New Guinea singing dog, a rare wild dog known for its unusual vocals. For a long time, it was believed that none remained in the wild, only in captivity. Footage with their drawn-out songs sound like greetings from a time when humans had not yet divided dogs into pets and unnecessary strays. Many of these animals look as if they were invented for a science fiction movie. A fish on legs, an octopus with a blanket, a worm as thick as an arm. But these are not special effects. This is ordinary life in those corners of the planet that we almost never look into. Every time a new camera goes deeper, climbs higher, or pushes farther into the wilderness, we have a chance to see something that no biologist has ever written about in serious papers. Write in the comments everything you think about this episode, about the situation with extinction, and subscribe to Top Facts for the most incredible collections of facts and videos from all over the internet. Thank you for watching, and right now, click on one of our previous episodes.